Good morning. My name is Renee Williams. I assist the NSAA as the softball state rules interpreter, as well as the umpire evaluator for the NSAA. First, we would like to talk about the legal softball bats that your players will be using, and you can find the list in the NSAA manual. You can also check the website, or the list is also posted on the USA Softball website for the legal bats. When checking your bats against the USA Softball bat list, I've got a bat here to show you. Right here is the logo, or the logo that you will be looking for. This one happens to be down here. Some of them happen to be down here on the bat, so they are at different places. But this is the actually the ASA list or logo that you have to look for. And also the model number of the bat happens to be right here as well. They're hard to find. They're not all in the same place on all bats either. So those are the two things in looking at the USA Softball bat list that you need to look for. Now we're going to talk about the safety of your bats, and the first part that we're going to talk about is the grip of the bats. This grip is actually in pretty good shape. As you can see, it's taped down and there's no cuts, holes or anything with it. I do have another one here. This bat, as you can see, is kind of worn with this grip. It's not too bad. It doesn't happen to be ripped or torn. Once in a while you're going to find some rips within here or even the tape part, so you can actually use some athletic tape to help secure that. So you do not use electrical tape, but use athletic tape. That is the best to help that, and make sure you do not go any further than what the actual grip is. So I believe that's no longer than 15 inches on the bat. So make sure that's all tied down nicely for you. Step number 2 in the safety check of our bats is this end cap here. You need to check to make sure those are secure. They don't twist around, they don't move. And also, and as you can see, this one is just fine, but make sure that they're not cut, not broken. The next step in our bat check will be to check the bat for cracks. So you need to look at the bat, and a good way to check for cracks is to take your hand and just run it over the bat, or twist it in your hand like this, and you can feel for any cracks. Also physically look at it and see. As you can see here, this was just made by a cleat mark. You need to be aware of that, because if you have a lot of cleat marks that are starting, that will start to affect the bat. I don't feel, it looks like maybe there's a couple cracks starting, and some of that's just the outer part of that, but that's usually not too bad. There's nothing out of the ordinary that I see on this bat. In checking for the cracks also, when you're sliding your hand along here, this will help you also feel for dents or divots or low marks on the bat. Next bat safety check will be checking the bats for rattles. Some of these are quite obvious and very easy to pick up, others not so much. Here is one bat and that you will be able to tell that I don't even hardly have to do anything with, and this is the obvious that I'm talking about. So please listen. As you can tell, I barely moved it and you could hear the inside. Now listen again. Okay, that's definitely a breakdown of what's going on inside. Sometimes the stuff in there is not quite that loose and it's just starting to break down. So another way to check bats is to sit here and just clap it against your hand like this, and you'll be able to see if anything's rattling. As you can tell, see, sometimes it gets stuck in there. The other way is to hold it about on the grip here, right at the very knob here, and go like this. Okay, now as you can see, that's really not, you're not hearing anything, but that is where you're going to be able to hear something break loose if it's a little bit tighter in there on that. So that's how you check for rattles. Just shake it. And like I said, the obvious, if you can do this, that's easy, and that bat is no good. Okay, our last safety check for bats is going to be checking the bats for wobbles. And to be able to check for wobbles, we're going to do kind of what we were doing for the rattles. Is the best way to do it is to grab your hand at the bottom of the bat and then one at the joint, and then do a nice little shake. And it doesn't have to be just a little one. Do a little bit of force behind it and do a little wobble. If it's going to wobble, you're going to feel that do that. The other thing you can do for the wobble is sometimes do this and you can kind of feel that wobble as well. But the best way to feel a wobble is to grip it right at the joint and at the bottom and do a nice little shake like that, and you're going to feel a wobble. The wobbles, that is not a legal bat either, and those will be pulled. Okay, just to recap some of our bat checks here. At the beginning of the season, you should always check your bats against the bat list and then check them for the issues that we were talking about. You should do this a couple times throughout the year because, as you can see, this is a bat that does not look very old. I saw a bat here this past summer that had only been in the game once, and it was already cracked. So those can crack at any time. The bat cap can come loose. There can be anything. So these do need to be checked several times throughout the year, and that is a safety issue for all players and coaches involved with that. Another safety check that we need to check is the helmets. And yes, we do not have a helmet here, but what I want to show you is if you turn the helmet upside down, check all the padding that is inside of the helmet. Make sure it is adhered to the helmet and not coming loose or is cockeyed in there. Check the underneath for any cracks. Flip it over, check for any cracks that there are on the outside of the helmet. Also check the face mask, especially where it comes across on the bill or on the sides. Make sure that all screws are there. It's probably a good idea to keep extra screws in your bag, because a lot of times the mask, if you pick up the mask and the mask moves, then those screws need to either be another screw in there or it needs to be tightened. Thank you very much for taking the time to review these important rule changes. The reason we covered this is Rule 3.2.15 has been removed from the rule book, which basically that equipment was put outside of the dugout for the umpires to review the equipment. With that rule being removed, the onus falls on you as coaches and administrators of the school to check and have legal and proper equipment for the safety of the players. Have a good season.